Callum,
Hi.
so you are launching a service to verify agents' identity and intent. So I'm very curious about that. So what does it mean to verify an agent? And how do you prevent misuse in a world full of synthetic actors or misuse?
So I think most people now have got the idea that the difference between an AI agent and a non-AI agent is two things. They are autonomous and they have an impact on the real world. And it's a bit like the definition of artificial intelligence. People were using the phrase for things that really weren't artificial intelligence, and increasingly that's not the case. And I think the same is happening with AI agents. People are calling things agents when they're really not, but increasingly people will reserve the term for things that are genuinely agents. And since an agent is autonomous and it can impact the real world, and there's likely to be billions of them in a pretty short period of time, it's obviously very important that we know that agents will do what they're supposed to do and won't do what they're not supposed to do. And how do you check that? Well, you verify them. So, as you say, we're launching a service of AI agent verification, in which we take an agent that is about to be deployed by an organization, and we put it through some tests. And we check that it will do what it's supposed to do and won't do anything else. And there are three levels of sophistication of agent and sophistication of tests. So level one, the agent simply has knowledge. In fact, you could argue this isn't a true agent, but people are calling them agents, so we'll go with that. You test whether the agent has the knowledge that it's supposed to. You test it against some ground truth database, and if it does have the knowledge, and it applies that knowledge correctly, then it passes the test and it gets certified. The second level is when the agent has the ability to call on tools and use those tools to achieve its goals. And so there we verify that it can identify which are the right tools to use and can use them appropriately. And then the third level is a very sophisticated agent which can do a whole work stream very much like a human would do. And an example might be a project manager. You could have an agent which is a project manager and could project manage a group of other agents to perform a task, which might be launching a new beverage, for instance. And in fact, I'll show a video of a dramatization of that in my keynote this afternoon. And we will take organizations' agents, we will take them into our platform, our environment, and put them through these tests, and we'll provide a report which will say, did the agent do what it's supposed to do? Where were its weaknesses? And are there any really red flashing lights which mean that you should not deploy this agent? So can you deploy it as it is? Do you need to do some work on it before you deploy it, or do you just, you really should not deploy this agent? This is a nascent industry. We think this is going to be a big industry because it's extremely important that agents are verified. We are funded by a large media group which has already created about 30,000 agents, and we're announcing a partnership today with that media group that we will be verifying their agents. We're going to do that for a while, and once we've established the protocols and so on, we will then make the service available to other organizations which are deploying their agents. And we're launching this service today. I'm talking to you here, we're talking to the media, and my colleague Daniel, who set up the company, is announcing it at the same time in Cannes, in France.
Callum, you are kind of our philosopher on the panel, right? So let's take some distance. And so these agents are becoming more and more autonomous. They don't have full agency yet, right? So in a world where we have agents with full agency, how does it look like? How do we collaborate with them? How do they collaborate with us?
They're going to be like colleagues. We're going to have mixed working groups of humans and agents. The agents won't be like humans. They won't be the kind of entity that you could say, right, today I want you to work in the human resources department, and tomorrow I want you to work in sales. The agents will be, at least for some considerable time, probably until we have superintelligence, they will be specifically designed for a particular task. but they will work alongside the humans doing the same sort of work. And as I say, it's obviously very important to know that that they will do what we want them to do and not do anything else.
When it comes to governance and responsibility, and that's really for all of you, what new forms of responsibility emerge with agentic AI? If an agent makes a harmful decision or a mistake, who is accountable for that?
Developers, organizations that deploy agents will be extremely keen that their agents don't run amok and do things that they're not supposed to do. But at the end of the day, we can't rely on that. As with any other industry, the AI industry, the AI agent industry needs to be regulated. I mean, Stuart Russell made the very good point this morning that the AI industry can say, well, you can't regulate us because it will kill innovation. But the people who are saying that live in regulated houses, they work in regulated buildings, they drink regulated water and eat regulated food. Because at the end of the day, it's the elected government whose job is to make sure that industries behave properly, because industries every now and then will not behave properly, either by accident or design. So this industry is no different from that. There's a myth in America that Europe is massively over-regulated and Europe doesn't work because it's over-regulated. It's really not true. In Europe, we don't have that much more regulation than you do here. In fact, you have so many layers of government that in some areas you have more than we do. The EU Act gets a bad rap, but actually it's a very intelligent approach to AI because it deals with the problem of regulation, that regulation is always fighting last year's battle. And regulators never have the resources that the regulated have. So what the EU AI Act says, if something goes wrong and you can't show that you did your due diligence properly, then you will suffer serious consequences. We're not telling you in advance what safe looks like because we don't know. None of us know. This is a new field. It's developing very fast. But you need to be on your mettle. You need to show that you've done as much as you possibly can to make it safe. And guess what? I think verification of agents is going to be a big part of companies doing their due diligence.
Great. So before we move to our questions from the audience, a last question for you, and in one sentence. If you could share with us what is one principle or one rule you believe is essential to build a safe and powerful agentic AI? Let's start with you, Nina.
I would say trust but verify. You want to give your agent access to the resources, but guardrail it, sandbox it, make sure it's talking to who it should be allowed to talk to. Take all those precautions.
Caleb?
I like that, trust but verify, very good. Apply common sense and be as responsible as you can.